It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmic Voice. Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmic Voice. This is Season 5, Episode 17. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
What's going on, everybody?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, dude. How are you?
I am fantastic as well. Dealing with some heavy winds today. This is, I don't know.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know what's going on, but it's like 50-mile-an-hour winds.
Crazy today. I had me, because I'm a truck driver. I literally fought my truck all day today. Just getting pounded by wind, just driving against it was ridiculous.
Holding on to that steering wheel like it was gold.
Dude, bro, craziness, man. Craziness.
Like it was your job.
Yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It is my job.
So good thing you're holding on to it. You got to keep your
But
job.
it would have been okay if, the whole truck got blown over a bridge. That would have been okay.
Not with you in it, I hope not. But
No. But I don't know how mad I would have been about it.
No, that's crazy. But yeah, this weather, this winter has been anybody's guess.
Yeah,
Anybody's
man.
guess.
Like we'd said on, the past few episodes, it's cold one moment and warm the next day and 60, 67 degrees. And then it's 40 the next day and windy today. Like we said, it's been a crazy winter. Crazy winter. I don't even really it hasn't even really been a winter, right? It's been kind of like a spring fall.
It's like a spring fall. Spring fall.
Because we really haven't had like major cold temperatures, maybe less than 2 handfuls, really, if you think about it. I think I've only scraped my car, I don't know, a handful of times, frost on the windshield. A handful of times. That's how I judge my winter. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
By how many times I scrape my windshield.
Well, everybody's got to have their standards. I get it.
Exactly. But
yeah, listen, quick side note, and I know we've talked about this in several episodes about this time change and how they're permanently staying with one thing. But I think maybe I was slightly misinformed or I'm reading something different. But they're getting rid of daylight savings time. So this is the last time for daylight savings time. When we go back in, when is it, October, November, to standard time, that will be our last time. So they're not keeping daylight savings time like I thought and was talking on the show. So I just want to correct that for anybody who actually cares and is using this show as a source of information for news and almanac resources. If you're a farmer or a, something, I don't know. That's where we're at. So
I don't remember you actually. I remember I was talking about it. I don't remember you actually thinking that it was only
I thought
one more time and that was it.
Well, for some, I thought it was this was it, and then we weren't going to do any more time changing. But I guess they got to do it one more time.
They got to do one more time.
They got to go back to standard time. Though they could have just kept it standard time and not even gotten to this. But for those that are hanging on, that have the flag flying high and the torch still burning for daylight savings time, this is your last opportunity to enjoy it. Because after this daylight savings time, they will never, ever, and that's not exactly true, because if anybody was alive in the 70s, you may have remembered they did this exact same thing twice to us.
Did they really?
Yeah, for a while.
I didn't know that.
They kept everybody at daylight savings time for a while. Then they went back. Then they went back to standard time for a while.
Really?
Then they went back. Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I don't understand any of this.
No, I don't either.
And it doesn't make sense. Time is time, I think. regardless, I'm still getting up in the morning before most humans get up. It's a struggle whether they give me an hour, take away an hour. It's a struggle no matter what. So, and if anybody's interested, again, if you're using this show as a source of education or resource, I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page and things were correct.
I'm sure it wouldn't be the first time someone said, these guys don't know what they're talking about.
Well, you see how fast they came at Joe Rogan, so they may come at Chris and Mick because they got the time change wrong.
Listen, I would love that kind of publicity. Are you kidding?
Actually, it would be fantastic. Because then I would get to say, are you people serious? You're going to listen to some low-level podcast, one guy in an attic, one guy in a basement, and you're worried about the time change?
That's so true.
But that would be fantastic, actually.
You're getting your news from us?
Yeah, really.
I can't even spell Ukraine.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right.
It's Russ the Boss.
This is Stephen Pearson from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmic Voice.
What do you got going on? Nothing?
No, dude, no, man. Just, just moving forward in things and got some things coming up. Super excited about. I know we keep talking about it, but you and I have a thing that's coming very close to an end, and I'm super excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, just keep moving forward. Keep doing what you do, and you never know what tomorrow will bring, right? The difference a day makes. That's what they say. A difference a day makes.
That's right.
You know? So a lot of opportunity, a lot of options do exist.
And if you fail today, you still got tomorrow.
That's right. That's right. There was a quote, how each day gives us that opportunity to kind of almost start over again.
Yeah,
so,
it's true.
As an artist, I mean, listen, you're working on a song, you're hitting brick walls. Well, sometimes you step away and you go tomorrow. And I know in reality, they talk about, in Asian philosophy, there is no tomorrow. Tomorrow doesn't exist yet. However...
Oh, okay.
Because it's the future's not here, but within an instant, it's the future's already passed.
Right.
But when we can project, say, into tomorrow, well, that's not here yet, so we have to make the most of today, right? That's like the present, right? That whole thing. But the idea is, in most cases, for most of us, it's already tomorrow in Australia, so it's coming.
That's true. That is very
true. So
in
a sense, thank you, Australia. It's already here.
I think with, the thought of tomorrow just gives people hope, right? Like, and die, you're a healthy guy, so it's that thing, if you're on a diet and you fail today, you got tomorrow. You just pick back up where you left off and do better tomorrow.
Exactly. And we're all going to have our ups and downs. You know how that goes. So again, if you're getting your information from this show for spiritual inspiration, a get up and go type of thing, you may have want to switch the channel, but
Joe Rogan.
Go to Joe Rogan. He apparently has more information than us. He at least has doctors on his show.
That is true.
So the topic for tonight's show is the dark side of music. Get some crazy music here. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. So the dark side of music, and as we're laughing, what do you think, buddy, when you hear that, the dark side of music? What is it to you?
We've seen the shows, we've seen the behind the musics and the downfalls of music and touring and drugs and alcohol and all that stuff. But I'm going to push it to 2023, the dark side of music. I think the one thing that we've seen all the shows, we've read the books, we know the dark sides, we've seen all the documentaries. I think the one thing that really kind of put it in my face was during COVID, when bands couldn't tour, when there was no traveling going on, and then traveling started to pick back up and bands started to tour. You saw a little bit of a hiccup with all these bands going back out on the road, because you started to realize that there were guys in bands that weren't going back on the road because they realized, hey, I didn't realize how much of being at home I missed, because I've been home for the past year and a half, 2 years, whatever it was, between point A to point B when we were starting to travel again. And all these artists started to kind of bail out on being on the road and kind of quitting their bands.
With your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
They were home with their families and their kids and their wives and husbands and whatever, and they were they didn't want to go back out. They realized how much they missed, right? And you know, you look at guys that have been on the road for years. I mean, you could talk, you know, Bon Jovi, you could talk Metallica, you could talk Aerosmith, you know, these guys, they spend years on the road. I guess bigger bands don't really do it that much anymore, but because it's not really cost effective. But, you know, these guys spend years and years on the road, night after night after night, away from home, missing weddings, missing birthdays, missing celebrations, missing, you know, births, missing deaths, and all that kind of stuff. You really realize that this life that we as music lovers and as artists that we love so much, the passion that we have to do what we do, you realize the sacrifices that we have to make for those kind of things, which leads to the dark side of music, because you are away so much. And, you know, there's been so many suicides within the past number of years from musicians who live on the road. And, you know, because even though there's 24 hours in a day, there's 22, 21 hours that those guys and girls don't do anything. They're just kind of in their own head, in their own space. And you read Paul Stanley's book, and he talks about how he was holed up in his hotel rooms, depressed, and with Bennington from Linkin Park. And, you know, he was so depressed, and, you know, because he was in his hotel room, he was always by himself. And, you know, your mind gets away with you when you're by yourself. You let your mind talk you into things that you maybe normally wouldn't. I think it's that time, right? That's what I realized with all these people backing out and all these suicides, when you realize that being on the road is not always what it's cracked up to be, right? I mean, I know just by me, you know, how many times have we loaded in at 2, 3 in the afternoon, you're not playing until 11 or midnight. I mean, and you know what I mean? You're just kind of waiting around and you're doing absolutely nothing. And I think it's those times that really creep into people's minds, that when you're just alone, I mean, look how many people have had the world and took their own lives. And I mean, that says a lot about that kind of success and that kind of lifestyle, being on the road and being by yourself, even though you're surrounded by friends and crews and fans. And, you know, those moments are fleeting. And you know, it's those alone times that really are the damaging ones. You know, if you don't have a good, I don't want to say head on your shoulders because that's not the right word. If you don't have a good mental health, you know, those times can be pretty brutal. And then there's those people that, like I said, realize that, oh my God, I've missed all these things at home. I'm not going to do my passion anymore. I'm going to live the rest of my life with my kids and my family and my friends. And, you know, and that's what people choose to do. And so when I think of Darkside, that's immediately what I think of. And of course, there's many, many other things, but that's what I think of immediately. It's those people that stop doing it or have taken their own lives because of the loneliness that sometimes the road and traveling and waiting around brings you.
Totally agree. I mean, that on the road business is not what everyone thinks it is. There's a sensational romantic version of it, I guess, if you want to call it romantic. But a lot of that is happening because they're trying to fill in those gaps. Right? And then this is what leads to drug and alcoholism and maybe overindulgence in, you know, whatever it is that you want to add there. But if you think about it, again, you cannot function, especially if you're just a regular band, you know, and you're not traveling with a medical team and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
You can't function. You could not function if you tried.
Right.
Maybe a couple times, but as it compounds, you're going to fall on your face and you're not going to be delivering the good show. So, and Chris is right, when you are traveling and you're on the road for a couple weeks at a time, and that's what we'll talk about, the max is a couple weeks at a time, because for most people in our level, you're not traveling and touring for months on end because it's not feasible financially.
Right, especially nowadays.
Yeah, now, and even now, it's even worse. And I know we have a show coming up before the end of the season talking about, you know, the rising cost of touring from every aspect. Chris is right. When sometimes you have load in sound check at 2:30, depending on if you're the headlining act, or even if you're the direct support, sometimes you have to be in earlier, you have to load in earlier. There's a ton of downtime. It's hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hurry up and wait. So
a lot of it.
And if you've been traveling all day, you're in a van with the same group of guys, and a lot of times, maybe the first couple days everybody's talking, but then after a while, everybody kind of takes to their own space. we need to interact, but at the same time we need our space, and sometimes silence is good because of, especially our type of music. It's loud, it's aggressive, it can be intense, the crowd the same. So sometimes having that decompression moments, those decompression moments, is what we need. You know, we're not listening to music. There's oftentimes when we're traveling on the road and we're driving, we're not listening to music. Like there's almost, we don't put 100%. Any music in because we're taking advantage of that quiet time, so to speak. There can be, and as Chris pointed out, if you're not mentally, spiritually, emotionally put together, you could get lost in your own thoughts, and problems can arise. And if you're a loose cannon, things can be a little crazy. If you're like living on the edge, it's possible. Again, at our level, we don't have handlers that can pull us out of a jam, a legal jam or of any sort. So we have to kind of really consider what that is that we want to get involved in if it hurts the show or it hurts the tour. A couple weeks at the max is where it's been for us, and it does get lonely. Not lonely in the sense, if you have a significant other, if you have a wife, children, a family that you're used to being around, and then you're not around them. The first couple days, again, it's not too bad, but then after a while, you start missing them. And it's depending on the time. If you're overseas, there's a big time difference. You may not be able to connect with calling or whatever. Nowadays it's a little easier with the texting and stuff like that, so you can get some instantaneous. But there's still that separation. It can be tough. And what I've learned to do over the course of, the last decade or so is I do bring some books and I do some reading. It helps break some stuff up. I also do some writing, and I'm not just talking music. I do some journaling and I write out ideas. Maybe I sketch or something like that. Depending on how the tour is structured while we're on the road, if there's a place we're staying that has a gym, I utilize the gym. I'll utilize it a couple times, whether I'm just walking on the tread or doing a bike, or, like James will bring swimming trunks, just kind of like wade in the pool or whatever. So it's those type of things that kind of help you put a little bit of space in the spaces, right?
Yep.
The other thing that I've learned, too, is you got to kind of communicate with the rest of your band. Like, if something's a little off, if you feel like, and the band has to be also have some level of awareness. Now, I've been with guys that they're completely clueless. They have no idea what's going on with anybody. They can't read a body language, can't read a room. Even if you tell them to their face, they still can't get it. You know what I mean? So I think it's important. I'm not saying that everybody has to be a band of brothers, like, so it's, blood on blood, thicker than water type of thing. But what I'm saying is if you want everything to go smoothly, if you're, if it's about the music, about the business model, about what you're delivering in your brand, you should be aware of this, because you need everybody up to snuff. And a lot of times what happens is the guy goes, I'll let him figure it out himself. He's old enough. I don't have to hold his hand. And usually that's a sign that you're not on the same page about how things should be operating. You're kind of letting some stuff go. Listen, not everybody's going to have the level of compassion or empathy or interest in somebody else's problems or concerns or situation. But I think if it's a team, then it should be that way, right?
It should be. I think also, for sure. And I think sometimes too, unfortunately, some people just aren't good with those kind of things, right? Maybe they, because maybe their upbringing wasn't as, I can speak for myself. Like, my parents were very emotional people. So, emotions in my core family are pretty normal. So, we knew if something was wrong, we knew how to help them through it. Some people don't have that, some people weren't raised like that. So when there's someone in their life that is going through something, they may not know how to handle it because they've just, and nothing against them. They just, they're not sure how to handle it because they never were raised like that. And that's not a bad or good thing. It's just a thing.
No, I agree with you. And if someone was just brought on, they're a hired gun, they're saying, well, I didn't sign on for this. I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist.
Right, I'm not a psychiatrist, right.
I get it. And, but I do think it's something that should be, and I know oftentimes with males, it's kind of like, you don't want to go down that route because there's all this stigma with, expressing feelings and stuff. And I get that. But listen, communication is communication. Hey, guys, listen, I'm a little not with it today. Maybe I'm in a fog, something like that. Just want to let you know I'm doing the best I can. But if you see me kind of
100%.
whatever, something like that, because it can get a little hairy at times.
Yep.
For whatever reason. Sometimes it could be just food throwing you off. You could just not be sleeping well from just the travel alone, right? I mean, I've seen so many different things. You just got to be aware of it for yourself and for other people, right? You got to know that you're there for each other during that time. That's my personal opinion. And like I said, I've experienced a time on the road where a member who normally never has any issue, was having issue. When it finally came to a head, it was a shock to everybody.
Right.
And we're like, what's going on? It's something, and everybody's talking about like, oh, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore, And really what it came down to is the gig that we were at, there was a little bit of a commotion. The venue wasn't doing what they said they were going to do, and then they were causing other issues. It was that, I think, which triggered it, the straw that broke the camel's back. But it was, we were on the road and we had very little sleep. We were literally rushing from one place to another. We weren't eating very well. It just came to a head. And the person that we least expected it from, it was affecting more, right? Because maybe the rest of us were saying, I got to focus a little bit more. I know this is tough. Especially a couple of us are older, and we're like, but the person that normally handles it, they took it a little harder so we weren't paying as much attention as we should have. And I learned my lesson. I was like, okay, I got to keep a broader scope here.
Right.
For all of us, because it affected all of us in the long run.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people think life on the road is nothing but a party, and honestly, it's not.
It's not. And it really takes absolutely nothing just to go, hey guys, just want to let you know, like I've said that in a lot of my bands, up front, go, listen, we need to have a conversation. If someone is not feeling it, just say it. We don't even have to talk about it. You could even say, listen, I really don't want to get into it. Just not feeling it. Bad day, fighting with your mate, your partner, whatever. You just got to let other people know that you're in this situation, and they'll know to just kind of back off a little bit and, just kind of keep you in mind when things are going on. I think that's super, super important to do that.
Yeah, a little bit of awareness, a little bit of concern, and a lot of communication. That's it. I'm not saying you gotta hug everybody nonstop, because sometimes some people don't even want that. They don't want that.
Right.
They just want to know that maybe, they got a team that they can rely on just in case. And for that moment, or that 30 minutes, that 45 minutes, that 2 hours, however long you're on stage, I mean, that's the moment where you pull together for the songs, but a little bit of time off stage could go a long way too, just to keep everybody kind of, moving forward. And again, like you said, we've seen documentaries, we've read the books, whatever, seen the movies, about what this lifestyle can bring on for people. I mean, drugs and alcohol, medication addiction, like prescription medication addiction, whatever. I mean, bulimia and the other one, whatever that one is.
Anorexia.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of you're both puking the both way.
Yeah, true.
I don't understand. One is you don't eat, and one is you eat and then you throw up. Is that the difference?
It up,
yeah, I don't know.
Yep, that is.
Like I said, if you're getting your information, if you're planning on getting your medical information from the show, stop now. Stop now. Okay? Because I'm talking about stuff I'm not even sure which one it is. I know it's column A, column B. There's other things that I look at that could be considered, and again, this is just from my perspective, some of my experience about what can be considered the dark side of the music business. Yes, there's the bad deals, people stealing from you, and sometimes that happens. It probably happens more often than you think. Even in our area, our in the trench area, I think there's a lot of theft that often goes on, but it's unchecked because no one has the means to check it, in a sense.
Oh, yeah.
You see a band and you're like, I kind of like what they're doing, and then you take that and you just apply it to what you're doing. Could be ideas, it could be product, it could be sound, it could be whatever. And I've seen that happen. I mean, right now, there is about 5 or 6 bands nationwide that are all doing the exact same thing. I'm not going to specifically say what it is because some people who could possibly listen to the show knew who I'm speaking of. But there are about 5-6 bands that almost to the T, if there was a 10 checklist, they're all hitting the exact same things in the exact same order. It's like they're almost watching each other. Actually, I think 9 of them are watching one band personally, and then everybody's doing it in their area, so to speak, right? But that's normal in this business, right? Because, you know, what are you going to do? I've just recently did some interviews with some people that are considered the forerunners of certain styles, but they never really achieved major success or recognition.
Right.
But the bands that followed them that kind of took inspiration and or ripped them off got the bigger accolades, right? And they're aware of it, but they're like, well, we did it first, that's the way it is, but, you know, these bands were able to take it some other place. So it happens all the time.
All the time.
So if you can accept that to some degree, because you're probably doing it yourself and you don't even realize it, because you're taking whatever your favorite rock star has done and you're trying to implement that into whatever. But then some people do it, there's an ill intent sometimes.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of that. But I think the other thing is how this starts to play on you as a person. And you can quickly become cynical in this business. And it could really put off what you're doing. It could actually be a roadblock for you for creativity. It could also be a roadblock for you as a business model, because people don't want to associate with you because of being so cynical. And sometimes you consider the negative all the time, and it's never a positive.
Right.
You'll often see that, especially on social media. We've talked about that, about some other things about what people in the episode of, you know, airing out your dirty laundry. You'll get that with people. You can kind of tell the musicians that always have a bitch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Now, I know you have your weekly bitch on the show, but I think that's more of a shtick. Okay? I'm going to go that route. I'm just going to be safe and say it's a shtick. You know what I mean? It's good for ratings, right? But there are people, good artists, good musicians, good singers. It's always something negative. And it's like, you know what? I don't care how good you are. I don't even want to bother with you. It's just not worth the aggravation, because I'm in a bad mood now.
Right.
And they're the person that maybe after the first couple weeks, you're like, okay, unfollow. You know, there's enough negativity. I don't need to be reminded of it.
Yeah, right. And life's so hard. Like, why do you want your favorite musicians? Why do you want to follow them and listen to them bitch all the time?
Right.
I don't.
Someone I had actually toured with for a while, did lots of shows with, and there was always complaining that, you know, nobody's helping out. I got to do everything on my own. This was part of the post, and I'm like, well, okay, I get it, but so is everybody else.
Right.
We can't put the blame on people for not doing what you think they should be doing. Nobody should be doing anything that normally you think they should be doing, because that's you thinking it and not them thinking it, right?
Right.
And then you pointing the finger and saying you should be, that's not, you know. And after a while, that cynical attitude they wear as a badge of honor. Because then you'll hear the stories that, well, it used to be like this. Well, the truth of the matter is, maybe, but it's always been that way. It's always been crap, right? It's always been a struggle. Always. Give me 1 year in your musical career, Chris, that it was 100% no problem. Never. Right. Even when things are on the up, there's still problems.
There is.
Right?
There is. Yep,
it just never, they're always there. Right? It could be the most positive thing in the world, and you could still have a ton of crap go wrong. Well, what are you going to do? That's what you focus on? You can't.
Right. You can't.
You can't. And usually what happens with these guys after a while is they burn out. People get tired of hearing from them.
Yep.
I'm done. There's no point of doing this anymore. I've did it for X amount of years, never got anywhere, this, that, and the other thing, and that's the end of it. The funny thing is that I've been seeing recently is, and like, listen, and I've talked about this before, at some point, there's going to be a time in my life where I can't do it the capacity I'm doing it now. And my capacity has changed or lessened over the last 5 years already as I start to get older. So there's going to be a point that it's not going to be like it is today. I don't know when that's going to be. I have no idea. If I knew, then it'd be a different story. But it seems because a lot of the big-time guys are going around that they're retiring or they're hanging it up or this is the last. Like, other major acts are doing the same thing. They're starting to follow suit, right? It becomes in vogue, right? Like, how do we get sales? How do we get our name out there? We're going to do it one more time for the fans. Now you have us regional and local guys are starting to say the same thing. I'm retiring. This is it. This is my last year. Listen, I've been joking about retiring for years. I know it's going to happen someday, but I don't think I'm going to call it retire. Like, I'm just going to be done. That's it. It's over. I'm going to go do something else, drive a bus for Disney. I don't know. You know what I mean? With my nice little cooler, and I get free park passes, and, you know, the sun and fun as much as I can get. So I'll disappear, and no one will ever notice anyway. But, like, I don't understand that whole thing. Like, if you're just retiring, you got to make a big deal out of it? I don't know. I mean, like, if there wasn't a big deal with the career before, why is there a big deal with the career now?
Well, I think, unfortunately, as you know, I even hate to say it, but you know as well as I do, it's just a money grab. That's all this is.
Well, for the guys on the big thing, sure, I get it. Last time, let's go out. I mean, I'm sure there are people that, like you said, there's actors that have retired. Like, you know, Sean Connery has passed, but after 2001, he retired from acting. He started painting and stuff like that, but he retired to his castle, and he lived the rest of his life. He didn't need to do it anymore. Same with Gene Hackman. I'm using some bigger name stars so you can see that. Yeah. And I'm sure there are musical artists that have done the same thing. I can't think of anybody, right? I'm sure there are. There has to be people that aren't doing something.
Could you imagine being on our level and going, this is it, like, I'm done, I'm going to do one more show, and then that show be packed? And then you go, maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, maybe I should. Where were you people the last 35 years?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, that seems... But the truth of the matter is, how many people you think are actually going to come out?
Right.
You and I, believe it or not, we're not going to name any names. You and I were involved in the show that kind of similar thing happened, and it was kind of like a joke, right?
Yeah.
So
it was.
And we're just talking, like, and this is like local guys, right?
Yeah.
Big fish, little pond, which kind of thing, you know, and I get that. But back to the dark side, it can make you cynical. Now, listen, you and I, even though we're very positive about what we do, and we joke about a lot of the crap that happens to us, we take shots at ourselves, right? Of course. We are jaded about certain things, or a lot of things, that maybe 25 years ago we wouldn't have been as jaded about.
I agree, 100%.
Right? So,
100%.
So it does change you over time. Like, you'll start hearing something, and I see your face, and you go, yeah. And, like, you're almost holding your tongue. Right? And I get it, right? But that's what this business does to you.
Yeah.
But if you're aware of it, and you can kind of keep yourself in check, and you use it in a positive, critical type of way, it can benefit people. And I think that's what we're doing with the show. I mean, we are being critical about things, and we kind of often talk about some truths that happened with us based on our experience. And again, this isn't not everybody's experience, but there is some common ground. And you and I, we've crossed paths over the years many times, but we've also been parallel, but we've also been on the opposite end of the spectrum, and we've experienced similar things in completely different markets, in completely different genres, in completely different scenarios and situations. So there is common ground. And it jades you. Your experiences, and I've had similar ones, they've jaded us in a similar way because logic sets in. Sometimes logic sets in after the passion is taken over and go, wait a minute, buddy. You know what I mean? You can't be dumb again.
Yeah, right.
Right? Take a deep breath, step back. We're going to make it happen, but you sometimes have to be aware of that. That can greatly affect your creativity. I've seen that as well because you don't know what to do anymore. And what happens is, oftentimes, and this is what I've seen, and we've talked about this before on the show and off the air, is that these bands or these artists that get real cynical and have something to complain about everything, when they're so far into that, they're writing all over the place.
Yeah.
And they're going to extremes. They're doing this, but then
they
they're doing
lost their
this.
focus.
They lost their focus.
Lost focus.
And then you're at a show and the music goes from one thing to another thing to another thing. And like I said, at one point, I was touring with a band, and all of a sudden, all their originals became covers. And there was only a handful of originals. And they had plenty of originals. They didn't need to do covers. And they weren't even covers within the same vein. And I'm not saying that that's a problem, but if you're out on the road trying to support your music, it's your music that you should be supporting.
That's right. Yeah.
But it was like, no, the crowd wants this, or got to give the people this, or this is what they're... And I understand that because you want to play to the audience. You want to play to the room. But if you're out there with your stuff, that's what you have to make a good show of it as.
Yep.
Or
Yep.
just stop, take a break, and start all over again from scratch if you're looking to make a change. And what happens is in this business is after a while, everybody starts chasing a fire truck.
Yeah.
Because you're like, man, how much longer? I need something. So for us on this level, because we don't have the massive crowds, the big money, and a lot of us do stay away from drugs and alcohol, we start looking for that other fire truck to chase to get the audience to respond. You know, maybe it's more lights, maybe it's another guitar player, maybe it's backing tracks, maybe it's, I don't know, like, oh, I should put a Motorhead song in. It seems to work for these guys that can barely play, so maybe I'll put one in, right? Or whatever. I mean, seriously, we've had discussions over the years, like, should we throw in a cover or two, maybe as an encore or something, a last song, you know, just to keep that, like, the one last hook for the crowd. And the argument's always been, well, that's not what we're out there for.
Right.
You know what I mean? Have we tried it yet? No. Are we planning to? Kind of, yeah. But we're not even sure how that's going to work.
Right.
So that jadedness starts sometimes creating second guesses and doubts. So you have to be mindful of that. Is that really dark? Well, it could be. It could be. It depends on how far you take it.
Yeah, let's say you guys end up with discussion. Now maybe two of yous want to do it, two of yous don't. Now you're in this huge argument. Now somebody's got to, you know, kind of back down and kind of agree to disagree. And now, you know, hopefully you're not causing dissension and you know, bad feelings, and, you know, it could turn bad. That could lead to, you know, the dark side of stuff, because now now you and your band, or maybe you've never had these issues before, now you have these issues. You don't know what the right thing to do is.
Yeah, that could create wedges, and then then the communication starts to fall apart. They don't want to leave the band. Nobody wants to leave the band, but now the band struggles. Again, not naming any names, you just told me a story, you know, about a band. One member was going behind the band's back, making communications that maybe shouldn't have been happening in private. They should have been more with the entire band, aware of the situation. But unfortunately, all that came out. Now it's caused a rift in the band.
Correct.
And, you know, there's always that possibility that the band may not survive that. I mean, we're only human, and we're built on relationships.
Right.
Sometimes the music isn't that strong in terms of to be able to hold these people together. And we've seen that with major bands. I mean, now it's coming out that Mick Mars was unhappy with the touring.
Yeah.
It's coming from Carmen Appice. Like he's the spokesperson now. Like, I don't understand. That I don't understand. It's like, if Mick Mars wants to say something, he should say it. I don't know, you know. But again, it's an opportunity for his name in the press, you know, and whatever. But it does things to people that you never expect. Everybody goes in, oh man, it's like we're going to just play the music. We have fun with it. I mean, you can remember those days of just starting to hit the chord, the volume, the songs coming together, and just like you feel this connection. But then after a while, things happen. We become human again.
That's right.
Sometimes the dark side of this business is often the attitude, the jealousy, the ego that you come in contact with. And this could be from a variety of places. It could be from family members. It could be from friends who are not necessarily into the music like you are. It can come from friends that are in the music like you are, and you're just doing something different, or you've shown some promise at. I've seen it with people who don't even know you, but may be aware of you, via now social media, and they already have an assumption or, some notion, pre-notion, without even, they just make it, like, who are these guys? Why should they get it and not me? That kind of thing. But you'll see that a lot among bands and artists today. And we talked about that before. I don't see that same camaraderie among bands that I seen 25 years ago and even in the 80s. It just doesn't seem to be there. I remember sharing audiences with bands. We were all there for the same thing, to pack the place and play our music. Nowadays, you don't see that.
No, you really don't, dude. And I've noticed it more as I've gotten older. And, because the business has gotten harder. And, we're all trying to fit, we're all in this pond together trying to swim upstream, and it's a constant battle, but some of the fish get there and some of them don't. But I notice it more now that I'm older, how much jealousy there is in this business. I mean, even guys in bands that, I thought were friends or, like touring buddies or whatever, you go, really? Like, you're that upset about this? Like, just because I get it, because you want to have the same opportunities, but not everybody gets those same opportunities. Now, in the hopes that, and I've always been a firm believer in this, if I'm the one that's going to make it, well, I'm going to, and we kind of prove this by doing this show. We were firm believers in, if I make it, I'm going to bring up people behind me, people that were good to me, people that deserve it, people that worked hard and should be in that spot. I still believe in that. That gets a lot harder as I get a lot older, because I see things more now.
Well, there's less people. There's less people. There's less people because you're seeing their true colors. I know exactly what you're talking about. I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Some of the people over the years that I've been completely shocked at why the type of attitude that I've received. Like you said, it could be just because some ground has been covered and they feel that they should be there too, or I wasn't deserving, or I could do this better. Well, maybe you can. Listen, this business has never been, the truth of the matter is, has never been one of who plays the best, who sings the best, who's the fastest. It's never been about that. There's guys in this business that can't even play, but they can put together 3 chords and it sounds great. And that's all they care about. It's about the music. It's not about who the better person is, because you have some songs that you're like, my God, this is like technical majesty, right? And then you got other stuff. It's like, well, it's like, I could do that. Yeah, but you didn't. And that's what made it so whatever. So, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, we all want to be able to, I wish I wrote that. Like, I mean, think about it. Kiss's Lick It Up. It's really not that complicated of a song, but it's like, man, I wish I wrote it. That's how simple it is. Dung, 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 dung. I do that in sound check. We do a 1, 2, 3, dung, 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 and we've never made a song out of it. Maybe that's our problem. We haven't figured it out. And I'm going to end on, the dark side is sometimes believing so hard in the dream that you lose sight of everything else, and then reality hits. And it's like a 2-ton heavy thing. It hits you so hard, you're like, and it can be depressing. It can be off-putting, and it could be career ruining for some people. Yeah. I've seen people, like, they all of a sudden they wake up and go, this is never going to happen for me. I just wasted X amount of years, blah, 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 did all this. This can be an expensive hobby. It can be an expensive career. A lot of money comes out of your pocket, and not enough ever gets put back in. Yep. That's a thing that they don't talk about until you're in it. Right. Right. And all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I've spent more money than I've ever made. I know that from firsthand. I mean, I've spent a lot of money over the years, especially in the early days when stuff wasn't as affordable as it is now. It's not as accessible. You didn't have that many choices. Recording equipment back in the old days was like I had to mortgage a house to get it. You know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. So I mean, there was times I basically lost my shirt trying to go for this dream. For some people, they lose it. And that's it. So
they do.
This show wasn't to bring people down. It's to make you aware of it. And the more you're aware of it, the less effect it'll have on you in the negative sense. Yep. You got anything else you want to add?
The one thing I do want to add is, also, too, with social media, And, and kind of going back to what we were saying about, the bitterness and stuff, and you're an artist and you see peers, don't believe everything you see, right? Like, just because you see it on social media, because these bands got these gigs or these artists got these gigs that you go, man, I want to play that gig. You don't really know what's behind the curtain. You don't know how they got that gig. Remember, unfortunately, in this business, it doesn't always happen that someone just emails you and goes, hey, I want to give you this show and this opportunity. There's always things connected to it. Oh, yeah. It's not that black and white. So don't believe everything you see, because there's things that I can tell you for a fact, there's things you're not seeing. It's not as black and white.
That's why they call it show business.
That's right.
It's all about the show and how you present it.
That's it. That's it.
If you like this episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the Cosmic Verse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is The Cosmic Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmic Voice. You can find The Cosmic Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, Stitcher, and so many more.
Okay, folks, that will do it for another episode of The Cosmic Voice. Mick and I would like to say thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
You're listening to The Cosmic Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.